chrysanthemums, and I will refer to them as mums as I go through this. They are a short day plant, so they flower in response to the length of the day versus the length of the night. And as the days become shorter in late summer, you'll see the flower buds form. And then when the days become even shorter, the bud develops and blooms. So there are garden mums and florist mums. And sometimes I see these florist mums sold at the same time, and people think they are getting a hardy mum when indeed they're not. And so florist mums are sold throughout the year, and usually at floral shops, supermarkets, or other retailers. And most florist mums will not survive our winters. But the garden mums are more cold hardy than the florist mums, and that's what you're seeing at the nurseries and different stores around. And from what I understand, it's a very nice crop this year. So when you're choosing mums, you want to look for vibrant colors and healthy foliage. If you choose ones that have the tightly closed buds, then you've got a little time before they're going to bloom. If you choose one that's kind of already bloomed out or halfway bloomed out, that bloom isn't going to last as long. So while you're deciding what color to buy or what flower type to buy, you're also going to be able to look at early, mid, and late season. And often they are marked. And again, they're just like what it says, early, mid, and late season. If you choose a late season one, it's going to bloom later in the season. And if you choose an early one, again, it's going to bloom earlier, and it's going to bloom out possibly before you want it to. So just be aware of that and look at those factors of when you're buying and when you're wanting the most bloom. When you're looking at them, make sure that you've got healthy foliage and you don't see any insects on it, yellow or diseased leaves. Just leave those plants alone. When you buy them, sometimes, I haven't seen this too often, in the container, there's no drainage hole or the plant is wrapped in foil. If that's the case, make sure you poke holes in the containers or repot it into a different container that does have drainage holes and remove the foil. That foil is pretty, but it can hold the moisture in that you don't want. Some people buy them and treat them just like an annual, and they are not planted in the ground, maybe not even put in another decorative pot. They're just placed around the yard, and that's just fine. However, those plants have been in those pots for quite a while, and there is not as much soil as there is root matter oftentimes. And so you want to make sure that those plants don't dry out, because they will dry out very quickly. So you probably will have to water every day, maybe every other day. You can move these. If you still want to treat them as an annual, you could put them in a different container, a decorative pot or a little bit larger container, and just fill it with potting soil. And it won't be as critical to check for water, but it'll still be critical. If you're going to use them as perennials, you want to plant it in the full sun where it receives at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. Also, they want fertile, well-drained soil, high in organic matter. Mulch the plant is also very good to protect it in the winter and help retain moisture in the spring and summer. If you are transplanting this plant this year, again, you're going to need to make sure that you water regularly. That soil ball can dry out quickly, which brings me to another thing about our clay soils. These mums were grown in really good high organic mixture. And if you do not amend the soil at all, and you just put it in our clay soils that have not been amended, often that will prevent good establishment and you could lose the plant. Every few years, you may need to divide it. And then also to keep them blooming, pinch off new growth from about 6 inches tall until early June. So when the plant's, 6 or 8 inches tall, you can start pinching it back. And what you're doing is actually pinching off the blooms because you don't want the plant to start forming its buds yet. And a rule of thumb that we go by is to stop pinching July 4th. And it's just an easy date to remember, and that's why we use that date. You want to pinch off the top half to 1 inch of new growth every 4 weeks during the summer. And that will allow the mum to branch and bloom well as a result of that. Last thing, water the plant at the soil line if it's in a container or in the ground. Don't water it overhead. This will help prevent splitting and breaking of the branches. Those branches on mums can break. You can see it sometimes at the nursery. You'll see where they're already splitting, not necessarily from not watering correctly, but just because the plant has gotten so large. But again, water at the soil line to help prevent that from happening.